Let's now take a look at how we can format a single line on the screen. And when we define individual lines for our selection screen, we need to define the start and end of each line. And in between the start and end, we include the specific parameters and select option statements. So let's have a look at the code. Let's see how the screen looks at the moment, and then we can maybe tidy it up. Okay. So that's the first line, the employee output. So let's start the code here. So to begin with, what we do is type selection screen and then begin of line. And then to define the end of our line, we do selection screen. To help if I spelt it properly, wouldn't it? Selection screen, as you may guess, just end of line. So now anything between the begin and end will all appear on one line. So let's change the 3 lines in between. Or 2 lines. First of all, we have a comment. And we'll say this is going to start at position 1. We don't want a new line there. It's going to be 15 characters long, and it will contain the word surname. If you remember, text 001 contains the value surname. Here we go. Then that will be followed by another comment. And we'll say, let's start this at position 20. And that's going to be for a length of 10. And that's going to contain the value stored in variable com1, which, as we saw earlier, gets assigned during the initialization section of the program. And that will say hello SAP. And then lastly, let's add another line. And let's just define a brand new parameter. Let's define a parameter called ABC, and we'll make it a character data type with a length of 5. If you remember, when we define character data types, we don't have to define it as a type C because that's implied, because it's the default. So I'll just leave it in the short form, just like that. And that's it. Let's see what it looks like. So there you can see we have our first field, or our first comment, then our second comment, and then the parameter field, all displayed on one line. So anything between the begin of line and end of line can all be put on one line. And all you need to do is make sure you get your positioning and length parameters correct. Now, those of you who have your eyes peeled, you may have noticed something. Let's go back to the screen. See here? We defined a parameter field. But see how it didn't automatically get assigned a comment or description that refers to the technical name of the field? Well, that's because we use specific comments on the line. So whenever you use the begin of line and end of line to define the line on the screen, the selection text itself that describes the element is not displayed, and that's when you would use the comments to create your own description on the line. Now, one more addition I want to show you right here is, and this can only be used when you have the begin of line and end of line, is the position addition. Now, to be fair, I don't see this being used an awful lot because the different elements of our screen allow you to specify the position of the element within its own syntax. But we do have the option of specifying the position of the next element separately. So So we would do a selection screen, and then we would include position, and then we can specify the position using an integer. So we could say position 35. Then if we include a parameter straight after this position, then our parameter will appear at position 35. Let's check it out. Now it's hard to see here, but let me step back. I'll tell you what I'll do. Let's comment out these two. I do apologise. Tell you what, instead of commenting them out, let's move them down. So there you can see the parameter was positioned at column 35. Now that just so happens to be in line with these. So let's just change it a little bit. Let's choose 30. And there you can see we've moved it back a little bit. Now we do have something else to add on to the position, and that is we have some, I guess you call them constants, that we can use. So by default, we'll go back to the screen. We can see we have a default position here, and we have a default position here. Well, this is referred to as position low, and this is position high. Now we can use these default positions with our position addition. And all we need to do is add pos. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll choose pos high first. And it's pos underscore high. And what you'll see is when we execute the program, our parameter is lined with the high position. So if you're defining your own fields and you want them all to line up just as they do with the select option, you can use the pos high so you don't have to remember the actual value. And the pos low, well, that will bring it in line with the first. There we go.